Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 4. I am Uyai Anyekan, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines. Presidency vows to end terrorism in Nigeria. Lagos government shuts down Christian schools. Plus, China reports 3 dead in latest COVID-19 outbreak. Details of the stories and more in a moment. We begin our news this afternoon with a report that presidency has vowed to end terrorism and banditry in Northwest. The presidency said there was ongoing re-equipment and reorganization of the security and intelligence forces. Recall that the North has been under serious terrorism and bandit attacks, which have taken a turn for the worst in recent times. Away from that, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has said Nigeria will be peaceful again. Osinbajo stated this in a chat with newsmen shortly after the Easter Sunday service at the State House Chapel, Aso Villa, Abuja. He noted that the resurrection of Jesus Christ is a defining moment for Christians, adding that the most important thing to bear in mind is the resuscitation of hope. He therefore advised Nigerians to be courageous and hopeful, stressing that peace will be restored in the country. Meanwhile, Speaker of the House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila has congratulated Christians, calling for unity and peace among Nigerians. He made the call in a statement by his media aide Lanre Lasisi. Gbajabiamila, who noted that the Easter period calls for sober reflection and dedication to nationhood, urged Christians to be their brother's keepers at all times. The Speaker, who asked all citizens to support the government in its effort to tackle the insecurity in the country, called for concerted efforts to contain insecurity across the country. He stressed that Nigerians should continue to live peacefully with one another, irrespective of any perceived differences. To politics now, where there are strong indications that the People's Democratic Party have settled for indirect primaries to pick its 2023 presidential candidate on May 29. Sources in the party who spoke on anonymity said the ongoing consensus talks some aspirants is not aimed at presenting a single aspirant as the presidential primary of the party. Reports say the party has no plan to impose a candidate on members, but is encouraging talks among intending presidential candidates to avoid voluntary step down to reduce post-primary crisis. Away from that, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to withdraw the pardon granted to former governors of Plateau State, Joshua Dariye, and Taraba State, Jolly Nyeme. In a statement issued by its Deputy Director, Kolawole Oludare, SERAP asked Buhari to use his good office to urgently review and withdraw the pardon granted to former political leaders. The group asked Buhari to propose constitutional amendment to the National Assembly to reform the provision on the exercise of the prerogative of mercy to make the provision more transparent and consistent. Meanwhile, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, says it has rescued 65 victims of alleged human trafficking in Niger Republic. NAPTIP Zonal Commander in charge of Kano, Abdullahi Babel, made this known in an interview with the newsmen in Kano. He said the victims were apprehended by operatives of the Nigeria Immigration Service and the Nigerian Police Force at the Kongolam entry post in Katsina State on the Nigerian-Niger border. Reports say the victims are Nigerian citizens comprising of 17 males and 48 females aged between 15 and 42. Elsewhere, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA has intercepted large consignments of cocaine at 3 major international airports in Port Harcourt, Abuja and Lagos and arrested 7 traffickers. NDLEA spokesman Femi Babafemi in a statement explained that the drugs were being smuggled by Brazil-based drug cartels before the attempt was foiled by their operatives. Reports say 5 suspects were arrested at Port Harcourt International Airport, while 3 were arrested during the inward screening of passengers on board Qatar Airline flight QR1433 from Doha to Port Harcourt. To Lagos now, where the state government has shut down all Christian schools in Lagos State indefinitely. The shutdown notice was contained in a press statement today. This followed a controversy generated over an immoral act engaged in by students of the school during a trip to Dubai. Reports say all allegations were being investigated by the relevant ministries, departments and agencies, including the Ministry of Education, Office of Education Quality Assurance, Ministry of Youth and Social Development, Ministry of Justice and the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Dom Emmanuel has advised politicians seeking elective positions in 2023 general elections to shun hatred and violence, stressing that no political office should compel them to shed the blood of the citizens. Emmanuel, who is also one of the presidential aspirants, gave the advice in his Easter broadcast in Uyo. The governor reiterated the need for people to remove hatred, ethnicity, anger, and all forms of divisive tendencies from the state's body politics as they reflect on the unflinching love for mankind represented by the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Still in Akwa Ibom State, health workers at the Primary Health Care Center in Ikotebong, Mkpareni local government have appealed to the state government to rehabilitate the only health facility in the area and construct an accessible road to the center. According to one of the workers who spoke with Spectrum Television correspondent, the health center needed urgent attention due to the health demand of the host community and neighboring villages. Our correspondent completes the report.
Neighboring villages in Pateni local government area of Akwa Ibom State, access to good healthcare facility is far from reach. Speaking with our correspondent, one out of the 3 workers at the center, Mrs. Stella Essien, laments lack of drugs, poor condition of the center, and bad roads as setbacks.
If young kid, it make up for register, I mean, up to 200 and something. Mpono women to it. Then when you aged people, I don't know any who came in. In the year, indeed, can not call it draft. It did be going, I mean, people in New York. From 60, 70 years old people, they used to come. But because of my new came in, say, boy, baby, and I get it, they come and manage.
Mrs. Essien said that thieves constantly robbed the center of useful facilities. The people, however, called on the state government to rehabilitate the center and construct the road in the area.
Doctor and all the doctor. And I know staff, again, out there, and I was on me at my because who saw me a map, a free movie, and wait a make us on the new doctor. He beat up in trouble. I said, my mother. I say, what more to Abiat, about machine Abiat, or what one tar, pay government who gone boom book, Yammo. A carry team way behind them. A carry team going by a minute, as I said last evening. I'm in having the moment. They're going to weigh me.
Hansen Uko, Spectrum Television News. For the
In South Africa, authorities have found 6 more bodies amid ongoing rescue operations following devastating flooding in the country's east coast. KwaZulu-Natal Premier assured South African search missions were back in full swing despite being impacted by extensive damage to the province. Reports say 63 persons are still missing or unaccounted for, with the death toll now standing at 443. Meanwhile, South Africa's Executive Council has approved the provincial policy on government support funeral assistance to people who passed away as a result of flood disasters. On the foreign scene, Catholic Pontiff Pope Francis has called for world peace as Christians celebrate the 2022 Easter period. Describing this year's celebration as Easter of War, Pope Francis, who called for peace in Ukraine, tasked world leaders to embrace dialogue and peaceful coexistence. Still on the foreign scene, Ukrainian Prime Minister Dmytro Kuleba says defenders of the besieged city of Mariupol will fight to end against Russian forces, despite an ultimatum from Moscow asking fighters to give up. Local officials in Ukraine and Russian forces have announced they will stop anyone from entering or leaving the city. Although capturing the whole of the city is seen as a major strategic prize for Russia, Kuleba added that the port city has not fallen and Ukraine forces are determined to hold fort.
No, city still is not fallen. There is still our military forces, our soldiers, so they will fight till the end. And as for now, they still are in Mariupol. No, city still is not fallen.
Meanwhile, China has reported that 3 people have died from COVID in Shanghai for the first time since the financial hub entered lockdown in late March. A release from the City Health Commission said the victims were aged between 89 and 91 and unvaccinated. Shanghai officials added that only 38% of residents over 60 are fully vaccinated. Reports say the deaths are the first COVID-linked fatalities to be officially announced, acknowledged by authorities in the entire country since March 2020. The city is now due to enter another round of mass testing, which means a strict lockdown will continue into a 4th week for most residents. Still to come in the news. Man United STVNg is involved in auto crash. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. Now on business, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Sylvia, has said that the federal government is due to complete the multi-billion-dollar Brass liquefied natural gas project that had been abandoned over 17 years ago. Sylvia, who stated that the government was looking for investors to revive the stalled gas project, spoke during an inspection of the project site in Tuan Brass, Bayelsa State. The minister, who inspected the Brass LNG site with the management of the Greenville LNG, an interested investor in the Brass project, said the federal government desires to complete the project because of the manifold economic benefits it would bring to the nation. Still in business, Director General of the Standards Organization of Nigeria, Farouk Salim, has said that no one is tracking importers of substandard goods in Nigeria. Salim, who said this in Lagos during a stakeholder sensitization forum, added that the essence of the sensitization with stakeholders was to communicate and share views on how to make businesses more efficient. He, however, attributed the high rate of insecurity in the country to the importation of substandard goods. In health, Nigeria's Center for Disease Control said the country recorded a continuous downward trend in the spread of COVID-19 infections and a decrease in the number of samples tested across the country in the past week. This was contained in the latest COVID-19 situation report, adding that as of April 14 and 15, only 2 cases of the virus were recorded in the country. In the situation report, the agency stated the number of samples tested decreased to 68,911 from 83,642 reported in week 13. In sports, Nigeria's under-17 girls maintained a good position for the final round of the African Qualification Series for the year's FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup, after a convincing 4-0 victory over Egypt at the MKO Abiola National Stadium, Abuja. Defender Taminunu Adesina flashed a shot into the side netting it in the 13th minute, and another shot above target in the 20th minute followed. Then Ajakiye scored her first goal of the qualifiers with an angled shot that beat goalkeeper Habiba El Tahafer and square in the 28th minute. Both teams clash again in Cairo on April 30th. The winner will most likely play Ethiopia in the final round of the series for a ticket to the FIFA World Cup in India. Still in sports, Manchester United midfielder Bruno Fernandes has been involved in a car crash in the early hours of today. No parties involved were said to have sustained serious injuries. Fernandes is expected to train with the rest of Ralph Rangnick's squad today, ahead of facing Liverpool in the Premier League on Tuesday night. On our entertainment news, Nigerian singer Divine Ikubo, better known as Rema, has decried the lingering strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. The 21-year-old star, who pleaded with ASU to call off the strike via his Twitter handle, noted that he was yet to start school since getting admission because of the strike. Recall that ASU embarked on a 1-month warning strike on February 14th and extended it by another 2 months over the alleged failure of the federal government to fulfill its agreements. Meanwhile, Minister of Labour and Employment Chris Ngige has advised ASU to return to the classroom while looking for better ways to pressurize the federal government to give into their demands.